This video is now in session, and today we don't really know the results of the New York City mayoral election, but we do know that Eric Adams currently leads with 31.7% of the vote. Now, obviously, by this listing, we were right about Eric Adams, but Maya Wiley, currently speaking, we are not as right about, which indicates that the progressive movement is not dead, but what a better indication or a better takeaway from this race is that crime is becoming a more important subject for both the Democrats and as well as national politics. With Eric Adams winning, he represented the section of New York City that wanted to be tough on crime, or at least to fund more of the police. Eric Adams was a former member of the NYPD, and as a result, he brings a lot of additional knowledge to the matter of crime, and it seems that he is very close to winning. Now, obviously, Mario Wiley or Catherine Garcia could still win out in this ranked choice voting situation, but it's unlikely to happen. Eric Adams seems still most likely going to win the NYC mayoral election, and that follows Biden's announcement on Wednesday that Biden will invest more in the police. That he will put in a comprehensive strategy on crime prevention, and this comes at the same time as the NYC mayoral primary had happened, where it showed that crime was an important subject. And this is something that could be the Democrats' Achilles heel in future elections in 2022 and 2024, because because Democrats, some Democrats, mostly progressive Democrats, are calling for defunding the police. So putting funding out of the police and reinvesting it in more of like social programs or even reparations. And those are really the only things that progressive Democrats say. But if Democrats want Republicans to have a ticket towards a majority in the House, Senate, and possibly in the presidency in 2024, then defunding the police is the way to go, as shown by this article, this opinion article right here by Thomas Friedman, who stated that a lot of the public does not want to defund the police, and that's very true. Almost everyone, besides the very progressive Democrats, don't want to defund the police. They don't want to dismantle it. And Minneapolis provides a lesson of what could happen if the police is dismantled. In Minneapolis, there currently is a city council that's incredibly progressive, who just started defunding the police and letting the police fend for themselves. And as a result, police were less likely to go out and patrol city streets, and thus gang members and as well as general bad people started using guns and shooting people, especially in lower income areas. And this affects the same kind of population that the Minneapolis City Council was trying to protect, which is low income Black Americans. The city council was trying to protect them by defunding the police, but with community violence on the rise, with the lack of police presence, then you have those very same people having to protect themselves from the gangsters without any police helping them. So Minneapolis provides a lesson of how dismantling the police is ineffective, and most of the public does not want to dismantle the police. And if the Democrats or let the progressive Democrats, if the establishment or moderate Democrats let the progressive Democrats start defunding the police in every single city, then the crime is going to rise, and obviously that is a major indicator that cities will start to go back to being Republican, just like they did after the 1970s, when crime was at the highest rate in several decades. And you will definitely have Republicans going into power everywhere, somewhat similar to the Gingrich Revolution of 1994, I believe. So that's what defunding the police does. It's not useful, especially because it goes against all logic. The same people who are saying that the criminal justice system is deeply flawed in that it doesn't teach the people inside the system what they did wrong and why the thing that they did was wrong and how to correct that. That kind of same injustice is being brought to police. They're punishing the police without any kind of explanation, without any kind of teaching. So there is no way that the police is going to learn from their mistakes if you simply just defund the police. Um, in fact, they'll probably start leaving the police or they'll probably start doing their job even less. And that presents a huge problem for cities trying to keep intact their crime because crime currently is going up everywhere at a pretty high rate during this summer. So it's not a good idea to defund the police for Democrats. And if they do, then the Republicans have a real talking point because again, barely anyone wants to defund the police. It's very unpopular among the public, and for activists, if establishment Democrats allow their way of thinking to go ahead, then Democrats won't be able to win in 2022 in the House. Even though they have a very slim chance, defunding the police means that they have no chance. And that's something that Biden, fortunately, knows. He knows the fact that if that defunding the police is a very bad phrase to be used by himself and by establishment Democrats and Democrats alike because it's a deeply unpopular thing. So that's why he's actually increasing the funding for police. And he said this since the primary, but increasing the funding for police allows police to be better trained. It teaches police members how to actually respond and de-escalate situations instead of simply shooting them. Defunding the police does not do that. It just takes the funding out of the police, and it doesn't really teach any of the police members why what they're doing is wrong and how to correct it. So that's something that Joe Biden is deviating on, and at least Democrats are starting to realize this with all of these elections happening, with the New York City mayoral primary showing that Eric Adams, who was essentially the crime candidate, is currently winning handily. Now, again, it's not over yet, but it's very likely at this point that Eric Adams will be the next mayor of New York. So, so that's one part of the Democrats, one part of what Democrats need to do. The other thing is messaging. Messaging this kind of thing is not going to be easy, especially when Republicans are very skilled messengers. If we looked at the 2020 election, Trump practically called Joe Biden and Kamala Harris a socialist, and that got him a lot of votes. And that kind of phrasing with defunding the police goes hand in hand with what Republicans will do in the 2022 election, which is to say that Democrats want to defund the police and go towards anarchy, and as a result, even though it might be fear-mongering, it's an effective strategy. So Democrats really have to push back on that, and they don't have much time left. Currently speaking, Biden's only real achievement has been COVID-19 in terms of infrastructure, in terms of family welfare, in terms of voting rights. All of that, those kinds of major policies have been stalled in the Senate. So Biden needs to get this right in order for him to actually in order for Democrats to actually have a chance in 2022, or else if they let defund the police run rampant in the Democratic Party, then Democrats can say goodbye to their majorities in the federal government and in state governments everywhere, and in the end, it may end up like 1980, where Ronald Reagan, as well as New York's mayor and Los Angeles's mayor, they all go for Republicans. So that's the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed it. This video is now adjourned, and I'll see you in the next one.